Hello, friends. It's Lindsay Satterfield, and I'm here today to talk about a very timely topic. I'm going to talk about goals today and a simple process for setting up your goals for 2020, because that seems to be the topic of the day, right? As we're inching closer to 2020, we start imagining what goals do I want to pursue in the coming year. It's also possible that you've just pushed that aside as well, because for as many people I think that are into goal setting and into setting goals for the year, there are people that have tried that, done that, and are giving up on that. So I'd like to make the case for goal setting, why I think it's important first, and then give you a simple process for establishing your goals for 2020. So first of all, why have goals? I find goal setting thrilling, and part of it is because of how unique it is to be able to set a goal, to project yourself into the future, look around, decide what you want to create, and then go about the process of getting there. That's an amazing, amazing power, an amazing capacity. So I encourage you to really take hold of that power and pursue goals, design and pursue goals. Now, what I won't encourage you to do is to use goal setting as a way to feel bad, right? I think that's why people give up on goal setting, is because they've had goals that they haven't achieved, and that feels disappointing. So really, if we take sort of a scientist's approach to goal setting, we can continue to stay in the game of pursuing our goals and making the adjustments. It's a great way to learn about how to be productive, is you start to see, what do I need to shift in order to pursue this goal? We get to learn about what it takes to actually achieve goals. What it doesn't take, what won't get you there, is setting a goal and forgetting it, just wishing into the future and going through life, and then at the end of the year going, oh darn, I didn't do it again. That doesn't work with goal setting. So another thing about why goals are powerful and helpful is because we experience life in time, right? So we go through life passing time. And there's this sense of progression that we love to have. It's why some people like the seasons, right? That changing of the seasons. It's marking time. And goals do this as well. It allows us to experience our own progress. You know, if you were driving down the highway and the scenery was all the same, almost like going through space, it was all the same, you would not experience the thrill of the drive, right? Of getting somewhere. You use those mile markers, you use the scenery around you to experience progress. And human beings love to make progress. It's highly motivating. When we don't have goals, we don't have that same sense of progress that we get when we're pursuing goals intentionally. So another reason to design and plan for and pursue goals. Another thing is it combats distraction. And this is important, I think, because in the world that we're in now, there's a lot vying for your attention. And when you don't have what I almost call gravity, the gravity of goals, the gravity of what you intend to create, then you're susceptible to all these things that will take your attention. And inherently, that's just not that fulfilling to be at sort of everyone else's or everything else's beck and call. So having goals helps you have the gravity to stay focused on what's important to you. It also helps with prioritizing. It helps you see, I can't do actually everything, so here's where I'm intending to go, and that helps me make decisions. And again, it's the experience of your own power to create. When we experience our ability to make progress or impact something that's meaningful to us, our motivation and our confidence rises. So I could go on about all the great reasons to get some goals, but those are a few of the really strong ones, I think, in terms of why do this habit every year of creating goals and pursuing them. So I want to give you a process for setting your goals for 2020, and there's 5 steps to this particular process. There's lots of different ways you can set goals. This is one that I have found works for me and has worked for my clients as well. And it goes like this, the 5 steps. The first one, I'll give you the overview and then I'll go into a little bit of detail. So the first step is to see. The second step is to select. The third step is to scribe. The fourth step is to strengthen. And the fifth step is to sketch. So I made them all S's for fun, okay? So see, then select, then scribe, strengthen, and sketch. So let's start with C. This is really important. It is very difficult to get out a sheet of paper and just start drafting goals. That just isn't a natural process. What's more natural to the human brain is to see, is to actually brainstorm possible futures. So this, again, is a incredibly unique human trait to project yourself into the future, be able to look around and actually see possible futures. This is really what it means to be a creator, right? We're all creators, whether you consider yourself creative or an artist or not. We all have the capacity to create. That's action, right? We have the capacity to create. And a creator can see something that doesn't yet exist, right? We can project ourselves into the future and see what we want to create. So the first step is to do just that, is to get out a sheet of paper. And this is first you start with just brainstorming. So project yourself to December 31st, 2020, and look around. What do you see? What is true in your world? And you might want to think of different aspects of your life. You might want to think about your family life or relationships or friendships or your work or career. You might want to think about characteristics or your health. You might want to think about just how you feel at the end of the year. So you can look at all the different aspects of your life and look around, project yourself into the future, and just start brainstorming what you see, what is possible. And here is a word of caution. Brainstorm. And brainstorm means no censoring. So sometimes when we do this, and I like to do it kind of at a fast clip, I will set a timer for 5 minutes, see what comes. And what's useful about that is you don't want to edit out what you think the future should look like, because some wild things may emerge. You're not committed to any of them, but they do give good information. So just have fun with it. I also like to do this brainstorming piece over time, because when you're not focused directly on it, your mind will be kind of churning on it. What do I see as possible at the end of December 2020? Another great prompt to try out is finishing the statement, wouldn't it be amazing if ... And just complete that. Just brainstorm a bunch of answers to that. Some will be way out there, but it'll just give you some good information about where, sort of the direction that you want to go in. Another part of this process can be to actually see the past, to look back. And this is perfect for having 2020 vision, right? So look back and take note of the past year and look at what was thrilling to you, what was exciting to you, what you're proud of, what is missing, what was missing from the past year. And some of that assessment of the past year will give you good information as you start to craft your goals going forward. So that's basically seeing. You're going to project yourself into the future, look around and consider all different areas of your life and just start writing down, brainstorm style, what you see. Possible futures. We're just creating possible futures. You can also use that statement, wouldn't it be amazing if? And also look back, because the past does hold some clues about what we care about going forward. So what were you proud of? What would you like to build on? What was missing? What were you disappointed in? Look at those things as well. Jot those things down, and all of that will be good information as you start to create your goals. So that's step one, is to see. You have to see first before you can create. So the next step is to select. So now that you have all this information, you're going to start to identify, what do you notice here? Like, what's interesting about what I see here, what I've created in this first step? What themes do I notice? What trends do I notice? And then you're going to start to craft your goals. You're going to select your goals. So you're going to identify, what is it that you actually want to create? What do you want to be true at the end of December 2020? What do you want to be true at the end of December 2020? So that is select. You're selecting. The next step is to scribe. You know, you may have heard this, because this research comes up again and again right around this time in various blog posts and articles. There's some research that's been done about the power of writing down your goals. It's what's called pre-commitment. When you write down your goals, you start to create this, what I would call a neural pathway, this like mental pathway towards your goals. You start giving it focus. So handwriting your goals is been found to, in many cases, increase the likelihood of goal achievement by up to 40%. So if that's possible, no harm in writing down your goals, handwriting your goals. So you'll also use those handwritten goals to be a visual cue for you. Because as I said, you want to start to make those goals sort of create a new neural pathway so that they create that gravity I was talking about. And you'll able to start focusing on your goals rather than all the other things that are competing with it. Not rather than, I shouldn't say that. But it is a nice counterbalance. What it is that you're intending, it doesn't get lost in all the other stuff going on, right? So you're going to write down your goals. Now write them as if they've already happened. That's a powerful way to start looking at, how do I start moving in that direction. Write it as if you're at December 31st, 2020, and what is true? What result is true? So it could be, I ran a marathon. I ran my first marathon. It could be something about your health. Whatever the result is, write that. When you write it down, write it as something that has happened already. That starts getting you in that mode. So that is scribe. Simple. So we've seen, then we selected, now we've written it down, scribe, and then the next one is strengthen. It's my favorite step of the process, maybe with C, is to strengthen it. So goals are great, but goals will lose power, our motivational power, if we don't know why we are pursuing them. Now, it may seem obvious to us when we first create our goals why we're pursuing them, but meaning is so important in the process of goal achievement, understanding why this goal is important to you. So for each of your goals, I suggest that you write underneath it why it matters. Why does this goal matter to you? Now, one exercise that you can do to really get at the true why, the one that really hits home, is to ask yourself, there's a technique called the 5 why technique that you may be familiar with, where you just continually ask, and why is that important? And then you get an answer and ask, why is that important? And eventually, usually after you ask the question 3 to 5 times, you'll get at something, a purpose or meaning that feels the most true for you, that has the most power or potency for you. So you have your goal, you have the why of the goal. Now, one of the powers of meaning, of knowing why something's important, is it's one of 2 elements that are powerfully trigger motivation. They are impact and meaning, those 2 things. When we don't feel like we have an impact or that the things we're doing are meaningful, we tend to lose motivation. But when we can see progress, we can see impact, and we can see that we're making progress on something that's meaningful to us, the neurochemistry of motivation, so those are things like dopamine and serotonin, those neurochemicals start to get triggered and released, and that opens up the learning center and does all sorts of other wonderful things. But generally speaking, we end up feeling more motivated. So understanding, having meaning is very important. So understanding the why behind your goal. And it's also important for when the going gets tough, because the going does get tough sometimes, right? When you're competing with all these things, you need to be able to reconnect to the why behind that goal. It allows you to stay connected to it. So we have C, select, scribe, strengthen, and then the last one is sketch. So as I said at the beginning, simply having a goal, obviously, is not going to make it happen. It's the first step, to a goal achievement, is actually knowing where you're going, but you will need to chart a path to get there. That's the planning piece. And that's a very dynamic piece. There's a lot that can go into that. You can become really skilled in how to plan and also how to pursue your goals. But for our sake right now, in terms of just setting up the goals, I like to have this last step of sketching out what are all the possible things I may need to do in order to make that result true at the end of the year. So I just create a mind map. That's my preferred way. Again, it's a brainstorm. So you'll just have a brainstorm of all the possible things that you might need to do in order to get to this goal. Once you have that, then when you start moving into planning, it's just a good resource for your planning. Then you're going to start to refine that and look for, okay, what are the mile markers along the way for me to make that a true statement at the end of the year, that goal a true statement at the end of the year. So we're not going to go into that planning piece, but that will set you up so you can start to see how will I actually get there. Because it's important to map out those mile markers along the way so that you do start experiencing progress. Another reason this is so important, and I actually want to back up to the select, this number 2, the select step. When you select your goals, a couple things to keep in mind. The first thing is challenge. There has been research around goal setting, and it's called the goal setting theory, developed by Edward Locke. And one of the really interesting findings in that work is that ambitious goals get done more than what are called in the research low goals. So really easy goals, things that are not much of a challenge, often get dropped along the way. When you have a goal that is challenging, somehow that gets our attention and it's highly motivating. So I recommend the goals that you choose, don't just select goals that you absolutely know you can achieve by the end of the year. select goals that are a little bit beyond what you know is possible. And this is the value of what I call focal length. So when we're goal setting, we're actually projecting ourselves into the future far enough that we lose sight of, okay, how am I actually going to get there? I'm not sure how I'm actually going to get there. And why is that important? Because it allows you to dream. If I think, okay, here's my goal for the end of next week, I'm not going to be dreaming too big. However, if I say the end of the year or the end of 2 years or the end of 5 years, it allows you to suspend a bit of that reality so that you can really dream bigger than what you may think is possible in the present. Another thing about goals is the only reason we create goals is to change our action in the present. Only reason. I meant to tell you that earlier. Okay, so the other thing when you're selecting goals is you want what are called approach goals. So you want to create a result, your goal is a result that you're working towards that are positive, that have magnetism, that first, the strengthening will help it have magnetism, but you don't want what are called, not approach, but regressive goals or whatever. In other words, you don't want goals that are negative. So you don't want to say, I will not gain any weight this year. That's just a bummer goal anyway, but a negative is very hard from a goal achievement point of view. So you want what are called approach goals, things that you can move towards, not that you're trying to keep away from. The brain apparently doesn't process negatives very well, so we end up actually in this crazy cycle of pursuing things we don't want. So we don't want that. So think big and think approach goals, things that are positive, that draw you towards them, that have magnetism. So that's in the goal selection. So let me see, anything else I need to tell you about goals? I think that's it for now. I think that's a good start. Oh, I know. I wanted to tell you about focal length. So when you do the sketching out and eventually the planning, you are pulling in your focal length. So this is where sometimes we miss in terms of goal achievement. We set the goal, but in our planning, we need to shorten up the focal length to make it realistic. So I like to work in 90-day periods, and so I create for my big goals. I'm going to create at the end of March. What am I going to have accomplished by then? That is a mile marker towards those bigger goals or a bigger goal. So that's where we start working with the planning piece, and that sketching step will really help you with that. So that's it on setting your goals for 2020. It's a really fun process. I recommend that you do it over time, have fun with it. Again, this is a power that human beings have. So don't let it go. Don't just say, oh no, I'm too cool for goals. I'm done with goals. Don't be that person. Be the person that has goals. We do know that in the study of high achievers have goals. And they really bring a lot of satisfaction and motivation to life. And also some evidence of increased happiness when you are pursuing goals, when you're moving forward to pursue things that matter to you. This is something that we do in the Power Start program that starts on January 10th. If you'd like to join us for that, we'll set up our goals, and then I guide you in a process of pursuing those goals in the first 90 days of the year, so that by the end of March you feel very proud of what you've accomplished in pursuing your goals for 2020. So if that sounds interesting to you, I would certainly love to welcome you to the program. I will put some information about it in one of the comments below. And regardless, I wish you well as you create your goals and pursue them in 2020. Have a great day.